10 Cloverfield Lane is a movie surrounded by the unusual. It is director Dan Trachtenberg's first time as a feature film director. It is the first sequel to a movie that came out 8 years before its release and features a cast of only 3 people. Even more unusual, relative to its success, is how the film is coherent and realistic despite the casting of several writers new to the industry, including writer and director Damien Chazelle, who worked on this project after finishing his first feature film, Whiplash. Despite this, the cast and crew of the film have made a near-perfect psychological thriller, even as a standalone movie, disregarding the franchise. As our protagonist, Michelle, is driving, she gets in an accident that rolls her car over and wakes up in an underground bunker. Her captor, Howard, states that he saw her car rolled over and came to rescue her from the impending doomsday of a vague nature. As she spends more time in the bunker, however, she learns that she may not be able to trust the man who saved her. The film's greatest strength is the use of confined spaces, as nearly 95% of the film takes place within the walls of a 4-section bunker, giving the characters and the audience a sense of cabin fever. Paring the cast down to 3 also gives the film ample time to focus on the interpersonal relationships of the characters and to unravel them to their true selves. Paranoia is also a cornerstone of the film, as it is the primary motivator for the majority of the characters, and it is apparent to the audience and other characters alike. This cornerstone forces both sides of the screen to consider what they think is even true anymore and what the right decision should be. The last half hour of the film leaves audiences on the edge of their seats, and there's no doubt that the movie will leave you with a wide open mouth after watching. The drawback of the film is the budget, estimated at $14 million, a fraction compared to the budgets of the other 2 films in the franchise. That being said, the crew did an amazing job with what they had, and I'm sure it was a good challenge to the filmmakers as well to work with such a tight wallet. 10 Cloverfield Lane is a must-watch for thriller and drama fans alike if they are willing to go along with the unorthodox use of the number of cast and singular location.
Even though there is a difference of 14 years between the 2 movies, Incredible 2 picks off right where it left off from the first movie, leaving the viewers feel like no time has passed by. Director Brad Bird brings back one of America's favorite families, the Parrs, in the sequel of the 2000 hit, The Incredibles. Star actors Holly Helen, Craig T. Hunter, and Samuel L. Jackson voice their famous superhero characters Elastigirl, Mr. Incredible, and Frozen. In the first movie, it's the story of Mr. Incredible and his comeback after a time where superheroes are illegal. This time around, the story is centered around Helen, also known as Elastigirl, as she teams up with wealthy businessman Winston Dever and his sister Evelyn to show the public that they can again trust superheroes to keep them safe. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Mr. Incredible plays stay-at-home dad, trying to juggle the stresses of everyday life while raising Violet and Dash, who also have superpowers. We then find out that little Jack too, has powers, and the family tries to adjust to it all. Meanwhile, supervillain Screenslaver uses the screens to hypnotize his people and attempt to ruin the reputation for superheroes once and for all. The family must come together and defeat Screenslaver and her schemes. Most of the times when a sequel comes out, fans are worried if it will meet their expectations, but I believe Incredibles 2 surpassed those expectations. What I really like about the movie is that even though the animated film is intended for a younger audience, Disney and Pixar knew it would relate to the entire family. Director Brad Bird wanted the movie to show more of the family dynamic rather than the superhero genre. The younger kids can enjoy the animation aspect and funny jokes, while the teens can relate to Violet and her teenage attempts to romance. On the other hand, the parent audience can relate to the stresses of parenthood. Another aspect that is popular in our culture is showing that women can do the job too. With Elastigirl being the center of the spotlight, it sure proves that it's the age of feminism. This film is sure to bring lots of laughter to every seat in the audience.
Based on a true story, Adrift focuses around a 23-year-old woman who was stranded in the Pacific for 41 days. Tammy and Richard, portrayed by Shailene Woodley and Sam Claflin, were 2 experienced sailors who got engaged and wanted to go on their dream trip from Tahiti to San Diego. While warned of the developing storm, it constantly changed directions and intensity, and they were unable to outrun it. After the storm, they decided the best decision was to sail 1,500 miles all the way to Hawaii, regardless of the risk of missing the islands entirely. Movie trailers these days do a good job at showing the majority, if not all of the movie. In Adrift, you know what you're getting yourself into. It's going to be a survival movie embedded with a love story. And it is, but there's still more you won't expect. Another aspect in this film is that it's not in chronological order. It begins with Tammy waking up from being unconscious after the storm. So not only is it confusing, but the movie seems to almost spoil it for you. You immediately know that Tammy is alive, Richard is alive, and they make it through the storm. Then you get their backstory, and then the storm happens. It tosses you back and forth from real time to the past. After watching the film, although I still feel that a chronological plot would have added a different, maybe nicer element to this film, I can see why they did it. The movie ends absolutely devastating and not how you'd expect it to be. Woodley and Claflin were amazing and convincing on screen, and their acting did not take away from the film, but simply added to it. This film is incredible and overwhelming. Prepare for 2 hours of intensity and frustration and maybe a few tears.
On Tuesday, I decided to step outside of my comfort zone and watch a movie from the dark comedy genre. The Lobster was the first movie to catch my eye with such a bizarre title and an interesting cover art. I can honestly say that this movie is unlike anything I've ever seen. The movie is set in a society that forces people to be in romantic relationships. When the authorities find out someone is single, they are put into prison-style hotels. To find a mate, they have 45 days to become engaged with someone. And if they don't become engaged, they are turned into an animal of their choosing. The hotel hosts events for the singles to become acquainted with each other. To get more time and to find a mate, they can go on hunting trips, and on these trips, they can hunt down single people hiding in the forest, capture them, and exchange the singles to extend their stay. The Lobster begins by introducing the main character, David, through a narrator. From the very beginning, everything the narrator says sounds unlively, cold, and monotone. David is a recently divorced man who checks himself into the singles hotel. The film shows his struggle in the dystopian society that he lives in. Morale and comfort are absent in his journey, and circumstances never become easier. All acts of showing empathy or emotion result in punishment and shame. While the movie follows an extremely unpleasant plot, there are some redeeming qualities. The premise of the film is intriguing and original in its content and delivery. It's so bad that you can't look away. This absurd black comedy is both unique and shocking. This movie is not for the faint of heart. Watching The Lobster can be compared to watching a documentary of human beings void of soul and driven mostly by primal instinct. There are graphically violent and sexually implicit scenes throughout the whole movie. I would express why the movie is not entertaining, but I don't believe that the primary goal of the film is to entertain people. The Lobster accurately depicts the dangers of treating relationships too formally and the fallacies of the objectification of people. I do not recommend this movie to anyone who wants to watch a comfortable movie. Everything from the soundtrack to the filmography aims to make the viewer feel uncomfortable. Watching The Lobster feels like watching an unethical social experiment. I do not recommend watching this film, but if you do, prepare for a one-of-a-kind experience.
Racism, hate, white supremacy. The Ku Klux Klan is the embodiment of these principles. Originally a group of post-Civil War white supremacists who wanted to keep African Americans in bondage, they saw a resurgence during the Civil Rights era. However, what if I were to tell you that during this time an African American man became a respected member of the Klan, and they never even realized it? This is the story Spike Lee tells in BlacKkKlansman, the story of Ron Stallworth. Ron Stallworth is living in the 70s when the Civil Rights Movement has ended, but racial tension is still high. Segregation is being undone, and for this reason, Ron Stallworth is brought in to become the first African-American member of the Colorado Springs Police Department, and at the same time, the first African-American member of the Klan. Stallworth is a detective assigned to keep an eye on racial tension in the city by monitoring the African-American community. During his investigation, he infiltrates the Klan as well, posing as a racist white man over the phone, and while he does this, he quickly gains their trust by sending his white partner to their meetings in his place, while he still communicates with them over the phone for weeks. Stallworth is living a double life as a member of the opposing sides of the racial war in the city. I won't spoil anything, but you'll just have to find out if they catch him. The movie is excellently acted and has an incredible cast. It features John David Washington, the son of Denzel Washington, as Ron Stallworth. Adam Driver, also known as Kylo Ren for you Star Wars fans, plays his fictionalized partner, and Topher Grace, the villain Venom from the critically acclaimed Spider-Man 3, is the clan leader David Duke. The movie does fictionalize some of the plot points, such as protecting the names of Stallworth's partners and friends. But otherwise, it is based on a true story. This makes the story even more tragic, because you cannot help but feel anger at the rampant racism that was present in our country only 40 years ago. The movie sends a strong political message through its incredible acting, excellent dialogue, and impressive visuals. I strongly recommend this movie. However, the harsh reality of real life is on full display, and with it comes every racial slur and expletive you could hear. This movie shines a spotlight on one of the worst parts of American history. If you have innocent ears, this movie is not for you. But if you are a mature movie viewing veteran, then I give BlacKkKlansman a 10 out of 10.
2018 was known for releasing some great, maybe not so great, and some pretty average films. While I will not go into detail about every single movie, I would like to take a dive into The Commuter, which was released in January of 2018. The Commuter is considered a certified B movie, but do let me tell you why it is still worth seeing. Starting off with a brief summary and no spoilers. The Commuter stars Liam Neeson as an insurance salesman known as Michael McCauley, who travels the same commute every single day from his work to home. After being fired from his job, Michael jumps into his commute routine for the last time, but not without a little surprise. He is contacted by a stranger that offers him a large sum of money, forcing him to uncover the identity of a murder witness that is on the train with him. If he successfully finds the passenger before the last stop, the money is his. If he is not successful, well, the situation will become deadly. He fights against time to solve this puzzle and realizes he is caught in between a criminal conspiracy which carries the life or death stakes of every single person on the train with him, including his own family. Now, due to the movie being considered an action-packed thriller, many have believed that The Commuter is nothing but Taken on a train. Well, I agree and disagree with that remark. Sure, the two have similarities, with Liam Neeson being the dad of the year by saving the day and having the plot of, well, hide and seek or death being the most prominent ones of all, but it is also different, and here's why. It's simply not Taken. I know, it's not much of a reveal or even exciting to hear, but it is true. The plot of The Commuter is built with multiple plot twists and suspenseful action that makes you even try and figure out who the passenger is before Neeson does. And you know what? As great as the Taken trilogy is, it does not take 3 movies worth for The Commuter to show how Neeson's particular set of skills can save the day. Overall, I suggest you watch The Commuter with an open mind and enjoy it for what it is, rather than spend the entire length of the movie comparing it to Taken, just as many critics have done.
The movie What Men Want is a spin-off of Nancy Meyers' hit romantic comedy What a Woman Wants. The movie came out just recently on February 8th. Being that it came out, it is doing fairly good in the box office. The movie is about Allie Davis working as a sport agent, trying to climb her way to the top in a world full of men. The movie shows Allie working hard and persevering the tasks that come her way. No matter how hard she works, she's always getting overlooked for the position she wants, because she is told that she does not understand men. Once she finds out this news, she gets furious and is determined to prove them wrong. That night, she goes to a bachelorette party, hoping to blow off steam. At the party, Allie ends up getting approached by a psychic. That psychic gives her a tea. Then she falls and hits her head, and when she comes to, she realizes that she can actually hear men's thoughts. Once she realizes that she holds this power, she freaks out, but then soon realizes that it can come to her favor. Throughout the movie, she uses it to her advantage with her clients and the guy she's getting feelings for. At first, it starts going her way and seems to be going smoothly. She then She makes her clients happy and getting them what they want. But too much of a good thing isn't always the best. Everything starts going downhill when she gets caught in a lie she created to get the best up-and-coming NBA player. She loses the guy she starts getting feelings for and loses her the client to another competitor. I won't spoil the ending for the movie for you in case you want to watch it. But overall, the movie is extremely well written and super funny. The casting team did a great job choosing the cast, and there's also some special appearances by Shaquille O'Neal. and a few others. What Men Want is a funny, romantic, and suspenseful movie and would recommend everyone seeing it.
I believe one of the most celebrated and unofficial traditions in women's culture is watching chick flicks with the girls. This being Valentine's, what better time than to get over emotional at a sappy and predictable movie. The Proposal was directed by Anne Fletcher and came out in 2009. And though the movie is 10 years old, the movie has a real, timely, and relatable realness. Sandra Bullock plays Margaret Tate, a workaholic and very demanding book publishing editor. Ryan Reynolds plays Andrew Payton, her hardworking assistant that's been working towards a promotion. Margaret gets the news that her visa has been expired and she's being deported back to Canada. On the spot, she blackmails Andrew into a scam marriage, just in time for them to go to take a trip to Alaska where Andrew is from, and just in time for Gammy's birthday. This is where the journey begins. During the course of 3 days, they work through family dynamics, a father's expectation for his son, a woman feeling family love that she hadn't felt in a long time. This intertwines with the typical laughs of a rom-com. But Bullock and Reynolds bring such a refreshing maturity to these characters. You're able to dive deeper into the experience and the film in a deeper way. Colorful, awkward, and abrasive, banter shows that they're clearly uncomfortable and as they navigate this web that they, or Margaret, has weaved for them. Roles that Bullock and Reynolds do so well while maintaining a familiarity that a three-year-old coworkers would have together. There's tension that doesn't come from just the family drama, but the Alaskan elements as well. In the end, they find themselves at a crossroads with some very strong and very unexpected feelings. I'm not saying that you'll be deeply enlightened by watching The Proposal, but I would venture to say that you'll go a bit deeper than its contemporaries, and you will emerge feeling you've experienced the movie with the characters and embrace the beautiful importance of your family, no matter what that looks like.
The movie that I'm going to talk about today is The Bad Times at the El Royale. If you have not seen this movie, there might be some spoilers. This movie had an all-star cast led by Jeff Bridges, John Hamm, Dakota Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, and Hollywood newcomer, Springfield alumni, Kaylee Spaney. This movie starts off with so much promise. It has a Hitchcockian feel of mystery and macabre. The audience is on the edge of their seats wondering what the guest secrets are. Why is this hotel pretty much abandoned? And why is there a two-way mirror in all of the hotel rooms? Like I said before, this movie starts off with so much promise. It's when the movie really gets going that it falls flat. There are so many loose ends, questions without answers. Chris Hemsworth's performance as a cult leader is disturbing and ridiculous. Kaylee Spaney is not believable and gives a horrible performance. This movie is graphic and violent without a purpose. Hollywood critiques rave and love this movie, saying this is what a cinema should be. I know this movie is symbolic for purgatory, but I felt like I was in purgatory watching this movie. It had so much purpose, great reviews. It fell flat and left the film student disappointed.
In the 8th installment of the beloved character of Spider-Man, Sony Pictures has finally done something right. In the animated action movie, teen Miles Morales is bitten by a radioactive spider and suddenly develops mysterious powers that transform him into the superhero known as Spider-Man. He learns to use his skills to battle the evil Kingpin as he aims to destroy all realities. By the end, Miles has undergone an inspiring character arc, learning to fight for justice, depend on his family, and trust himself. There's nothing quite like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Superhero movies have been done and overdone before, but this new take on a comic book movie is refreshing and exhilarating. The audience finds themselves identifying in the character's flaws and rejoicing in his successes. All at once, the story is sad, happy, funny, and smart. The characters are diverse and personable, the script is new and exciting, the outcome is unexpected and brilliant. The visual concepts, soundtrack, editing, and animation are all brand new and refreshingly unique. The picture moves like a live-action comic book, giving the audience thought bubbles, comic-like sketches, and split-screen editing. The camera shots are up close, attention-grabbing, and revealing. The voice acting is engaging and compelling. The movie deserves any recognition it receives. It truly is a cinematic masterpiece.
The Queen biopic Bohemian Rhapsody talks about the behind the scenes of the iconic band. But would you go as far to call this a killer Queen movie? The answer is yes. The film talks about how the band was formed and how they created Night at the Opera, which features the iconic song Bohemian Rhapsody. The film also touches on Freddie Mercury and his thrilling rise to fame and his fall to his tragic disease. It is hard to imagine playing such a unique character like Freddie Mercury, but Rami Malek did an incredible job. Malek is able to both portray rock star and normal Freddie. One of the most iconic scenes in the movie is the performance at the Live Aid. This scene is amazing because they recreated the Live Aid set. They mimicked every hit and every move to match up with the actual performance. My favorite scene in the film was the creation and the recording of Bohemian Rhapsody. It is really cool to see the creativity that each person brought to the table for this 6-minute song. The one thing about this movie that bothers me is that it is like every other biopic. It follows the same roadmap. Someone starts out as nobody, they find love and success, they struggle with fame, lose themselves to fame, they grow apart from each other, and eventually they make a huge comeback. But this movie was a win for me because I love that I grew up loving Queen, and whether you are a Queen fan or have never heard of them besides like 2 songs, then you should go see the movie yourself and decide what you think.
In the world of black college football, there's a saying that rings true to this day: halftime is game time. This is not meant to underscore the importance of the actual football game, but the main attraction that gets people in the seats at a black college football game is the marching bands. There's something about hearing the sound of a band playing your favorite Billboard Top 100 song or seeing precision drills and high-stepping drum majors that keeps people entertained. And Drumline, directed by Charles Stone III, does a great job of exemplifying this, in addition to the behind-the-scenes struggles that come along with being in a historically black university marching band. Drumline centers around a kid from Harlem named Devin Miles, played by Nick Cannon, who receives a scholarship to be in the band at the fictional Atlanta A&T University. Devin is a once-in-a-lifetime talent as a drummer, but he also carries an arrogant attitude that causes major conflict with his section leader, Sean, who is played by Leonard Roberts. Once Sean learns that Devin can't read music, he uses this information to his advantage and gets the band director, Dr. Lee, portrayed by Orlando Jones, to remove Devin from the drumline. While being faced with the prospect of defeating crosstown rival Morris Brown College at the annual BET Big Southern Classic, Dr. Lee has to decide whether or not Devin will be able to perform, and Devin also has to decide if he wants to live up to Dr. Lee's concept of one band, one sound. While the plot may seem formulaic, the acting and music provide the necessary entertainment that keeps the viewer's eyes locked on the screen. The chemistry that Nick Cannon and Zoe Saldana possess as love interests is undeniable, and the relationship between Devin, Sean, and Dr. Lee is one that is worth taking note of, pun intended. With a runtime of just under 2 hours, viewers may find themselves getting disinterested in being able to predict what's going to happen next, but Charles Stone crafts this film in a way that leaves viewers being able to appreciate the culture of historically black colleges and universities.
Sierra Burgess is a Loser was released September 7th, 2018. This film acts as a retelling of the classic story of Cyrano de Bergerac. Although there are no inappropriate scenes, this film teaches the audience that catfishing is okay. The main character, Sierra, lies to the boy she likes, befriends and humiliates the most popular girl at school, and is open about her disgust towards her body and image. From a viewer's standpoint, it seems as if Sierra is suffering from a twisted view of her own image and needs help finding her worth. The message she is sending to young girls watching this movie is that it is okay to pretend to be someone else in order to find love. The end of the movie results in Sierra getting to be with the man of her dreams because he fell in love with her personality. Despite the cute rom-com this film tried to be, it actually reveals more harm than good. The film tried to celebrate body positivity when really it revealed that you have to hide who you really are to find real love. Noah Centineo is the male actor in this film. He was in another film that came out previously titled To All the Boys I've Loved Before. His acting, along with the storyline from that film, was so impressive and appealing that it compelled viewers to view this film. However, it hurt to see an actor that performed so well be treated so poorly in a movie. Again, Sierra Burgess is a Loser is a film that reveals a love story that should not be celebrated. I would not recommend watching this film. Period.
Well, I definitely appreciated some of the reviews today, especially that Spider-Verse one. That's a fantastic movie. I would recommend that if you haven't seen it. If you haven't, then you're probably crazy anyway. So, all right, let's get started. Recently, Hollywood has been dishing out animated sequels without much regard in whether or not we want them in the first place. Incredibles 2 and Finding Dory were perhaps too derivative from their predecessors, and Ralph Breaks the Internet was pleasant but so unnecessary. Now here we have arrived with the sequel to the stop-motion animated masterpiece, The Lego Movie. The result is not perfect, but is probably the most ambitious animated sequel in a long while. The Lego Movie 2, the second part, is not as substantial as the original, yet its self-awareness makes for a worthy addition. Warning, potentially indirect spoilers might be ahead. Just like the original, the offbeat and fourth-wall jokes are hilarious and refreshing. The movie never seems to say no, which is perhaps its greatest strength and weakness. A welcome new addition to the movie would be a boisterous soundtrack. At times, the Lego Movie 2 could even be considered a musical, and a strong one at that. One of the biggest compliments of the original Lego Movie was its impressive list of involved cameos, and this sequel does not disappoint. One of the most hilarious and surprising additions is an actual Bruce Willis minifig voiced by Bruce Willis. It is for sure one of the highlights of the film. Although most of the film is great, some of its humor can come off as childish at times. That should be acceptable though, since it is a kids movie. But at times, the movie would benefit without them. I'm assuming most of these flat jokes come from the directorial change from Phil Lord and Chris Miller to Mike Mitchell. Mitchell's experience is limited to the cute but substantially lacking films such as Sky High and DreamWorks' Trolls. Overall though, the childish scenes pay off through another emotionally shocking twist. Like in the first Lego Movie, the connection with the real world adds a whole new substance to the film. Unlike most animated sequels, the Lego Movie 2 seems to have a reason to exist because of its underlying message. It really connected with me as someone who grew up playing with Legos with my siblings. In a way, I actually felt convicted and changed after the film. Though it'll never capture the excellence of the first film, The Lego Movie 2, the second part, is a well-deserved and welcome sequel that maintains and builds off of what made the first one so special. Thank you.
Hello, God. Yes, this is JC. No, not that JC. No, not Jesus, no. Hey, I wanted to ask you, could you give me some advice on how to be a good anchor? Okay, just speak it. Okay, I'll try that. This is scary. That was a really bad joke, I realized that. Superhero fiction. From the comic books to the toys and movies, children and adults alike love superheroes. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has a strong hold on its audience. I will confess that I'm a part of that audience. While the MCU has been great, what really caught my imagination recently was Aquaman. Now I know, before you scoff, I wasn't expecting much either, but I was blown out of the water. My chair too, out of the water, pun intended. Aquaman first appeared in DC Comics in November of 1941. As a comic book fan, I realize the character hasn't been all that popular, but the tide is turning. Aquaman's standalone film was released December 21st of 2018. I've seen the film twice. We might go for a third time. Jason Momoa plays Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman. Is it cheesy? You bet, cheesier than Swiss cheese. But that hasn't stopped mothers I know from taking their kids to see it 3 times just to see Jason's muscles. So stop knocking the film if you've yet to see it. The pros, the origin story is just fantastic. The visuals are amazing and the humor is gut-busting. The cons, you could potentially con yourself out of seeing it. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Most people who dislike Jason's aquatic performance are more than likely jealous of how ripped he actually is. Add to that the sad fact that the closest thing to looking that ripped most of us will ever experience is when we wear our ripped jeans. For Evangel Film Reviews, I'm JC Collins.